Admiral Jane Foster stood by the window of the Earth Embassy on Centralis, watching alien ships glide through the capital's busy skylines. After 40 years of membership in the Galactic Council, humans still got the worst docking spaces and the smallest offices. The embassy itself was tucked away in a corner of the diplomatic district, overshadowed by the grand structures of older species. She checked her watch. The emergency session had been going for 14 hours now, 14 hours of debate while human colonists on New Eden were dying. The door slid open behind her. Ambassador Greg Phillips entered, his face grim. His normally neat gray hair was disheveled and dark circles ringed his eyes. They voted, he said simply. Jane didn't need to ask the outcome. It was written in the slump of his shoulders, 26-1 against intervention. Greg continued, dropping into a chair. Only Counselor Elad supported us. Jane clenched her fists. The Vorlek have attacked 3 colony ships. They've raided 7 outposts. They're openly threatening New Eden, and still nothing. High Chancellor Zex Tour said defending human colonies wasn't worth risking Council ships. Greg's voice was flat. Several others questioned whether helping such a primitive species was worth the trouble. Jane walked to her desk and pressed a button. This is Admiral Foster. Recall all fleet personnel from Council space immediately. Priority Alpha. Greg raised an eyebrow. You had that order ready? I've had it ready for years. I just hoped I'd never use it. Jane looked out at the alien city again. We've given them 40 years to see us as equals. I'm done waiting. In the Grand Council chamber, the representatives of 27 species were still in their seats. Most were already discussing other matters. The human issue forgotten. Only Counselor Arya, her blue skin flushed with anger, remained focused on the human representatives' empty seats. High Chancellor Zor chittered with his mandibles in the Arxian equivalent of laughter. The humans will calm down. They always do. They need us more than we need them. You're wrong, Alea said. This time is different. They are primitive and few, Zor replied. This tantrum will pass. Where else can they go? The chamber's main doors opened. Ambassador Phillips entered alone, walking steadily to the center of the speaking floor. The chamber fell silent. The United Earth government has instructed me to deliver this message, Greg said, his voice echoing. For 40 years we have contributed to this council. We have followed your rules. We have paid your tariffs. We have waited patiently for the promised protection and partnership. He paused, looking at each council member in turn. Today you have made your position clear. Humanity now understands its place in your vision of the galaxy. We will no longer burden you with our concerns. His voice grew stronger. Effective immediately, Earth and all human colonies withdraw from the Galactic Council. We will protect our own. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Some laughed openly. Others shifted uncomfortably. You cannot survive without Council protection, Zex Tour said. The Vorlak will destroy your colonies within months. Greg smiled. For the first time that day, we'll take our chances. He turned and walked out without looking back. 3 days later, the human embassy on Centralis was empty. All human ships had left Council space. Communication channels with Earth went silent. In the private chambers of the High Chancellor, Zexer met with his advisors. The humans have removed all their diplomats and ships and aid Reported they've even withdrawn from the trading posts on Vega Prime, as I predicted, Zor said dismissively. They'll be back when the Vorlek start bombing their colonies. Humans are emotional but predictable. Only Counselor Arya, sitting quietly in the corner, looked troubled. Chancellor, she said finally, what if they don't come back? What if they find another way? What other way could there be? Zexter waved a clawed appendage. They're an LT Unk and GT alone now. That's what worries me, Yia replied. For 40 years we've held them back, limited their growth, controlled their technology. Now they have nothing to lose. Zexter chittered again. You give them too much credit. They're barely past their first space age. Yaria stood to leave. The humans have a saying I've always found interesting. Necessity is the mother of invention. I wonder what they'll invent now that survival is their necessity. She paused at the door. And I wonder if we'll like the result. 6 months passed without a word from human space on Centralis, the Galactic Council tried to pretend nothing had changed. Trade routes were adjusted. Border patrols were reassigned. The humans were forgotten, officially at least. Dr. Alan Weber wiped sweat from his forehead as he looked at the prototype weapon. His lab deep beneath the Rocky Mountains had once been a tourist attraction. Now it was the heart of Project Phoenix. Run the test again, he told his team. We need to be certain. The weapon hummed to life, its blue glow illuminating the tired faces of the scientists on the testing range. A salvaged piece of Vorlek hull armor waited. The weapon fired. The armor didn't just break, it dissolved. Alan smiled. It works. Their shields can't stop it. Across the solar system, Captain Olivia Barnes stood on the bridge of the Defiance. The ship looked normal from the outside. Inside it contained technologies no council species would recognize. Engine test complete, her first officer reported. We reached 300% of council standard speeds. Olivia nodded. Begin weapons drill. Crew moved with purpose. 6 months of constant training had made them sharp. They were ready. On Earth, General Frank Rodriguez reviewed the latest battle simulations. His tactics broke every rule in the Council military handbook. That was the point. The aliens wouldn't see it coming, sir, his aide said. We've lost contact with Outpost 7 on New Eden. Franked. The Vorlek are getting bolder. How long until the defense grid is ready? 3 days, sir. Tell the colonists to hold on. Help is coming. In her unmarked office, Spy Master Catherine Lee sorted through reports from agents throughout Council space. The aliens thought humans had vanished. They didn't realize human spies were everywhere, watching and learning. Message flashed on her screen. Vorlak battle fleet entering New Eden system. Estimated arrival 6 hours. Catherine sent alerts to all commands. Then she smiled grimly. The Vorlak had just made a fatal mistake on Centralis High. Chancellor Zur led a council meeting. The trade disruption in Sector 4 must be addressed, he chittered. Without human goods, 3 worlds face shortages. Counselor Iria spoke up. Perhaps we should reconsider our position on human worlds. The Vorlak continued to attack their territory. The humans made their choice, Zexter replied coldly. They rejected our wisdom. Let them face the consequences. A junior aide rushed in. Breaking protocol. Urgent news. Chancellor, the Vorlak fleet at New Eden has been destroyed. The council chamber Erupted in confused voices. Impossible. Zextor said, our sources confirmed. They sent 12 warships, the humans had. Nothing in that system that could challenge such a force. Our monitoring drones recorded it, the aide said, voice shaking. The human defense was overwhelming. No Vorlak ships survived. Silence fell across the chamber. Show us, Iria demanded. The main screen activated. The council watched as the Vorlak fleet approached the colony. Then strange ships appeared, human ships, but unlike any seen before. They moved too fast, fired weapons that cut through Vorlak shields like they weren't there. The battle lasted less than 10 minutes. What have they created? Someone whispered. Zexor's mandibles clicked. Rapidly, send a diplomatic mission. Immediately, we must reestablish contact. 3 days later, the mission returned. We couldn't even enter human space, the leader reported. Automated defense platforms blocked our path. Our messages received no response. There must be a way to contact them, Zexor insisted. Yeria laughed quietly. All eyes turned to her. For decades we ignored their request. We dismissed their concerns. We treated them as lesser beings, she said. Now you expect them to answer your call. They're not listening anymore, Chancellor. They're building what? Zextor demanded. A future that doesn't include us, Iria replied, and I fear that when they're ready, we will all hear from them again, whether we wish to or not. 1 year after humanity walked away, the galaxy changed. Food shortages hit. Council worlds, trade routes became dangerous. The mighty Vorlak Imperium lost ship after ship trying to take human colonies. Admiral Jane Foster stood on the observation deck of Earth's orbital headquarters. Below her, the planet buzzed with activity. Shipyards that hadn't existed a year ago now produced vessels that would make council engineers weep with envy. Admiral, her aide said, Secretary Martinez is ready for you. Jane nodded and walked to the conference room. Secretary Kyle Martinez was the new civilian leader of Unified Human Worlds. He rose as she entered. The Vorlak have asked the council for help against us. Kyle said without preamble. They claim we're the aggressors now. Jane laughed. Funny how quickly bullies cry when the tables turn. The council is listening to them, Kyle continued. They're forming a joint fleet to blockade New Eden. Let them come, Jane replied. It's time for the demonstration. On Centralis, the council was in chaos. Half the members faced civil unrest at home as resources grew scarce. Factories sat idle without human raw materials. Shipping companies went bankrupt as piracy rose in regions the council couldn't protect. Something must be done, a delegate shouted. Humans have upset the balance of power. High Chancellor Zur struggled to maintain order. His position weakened daily as more species questioned his leadership. Our joint operation with the Vorlak will remind humans of their place, he announced. 200 ships will blockade their colony at New Eden. They will have no choice but to negotiate. Councillor Iria, now leading a faction of council reformists, shook her head. You still don't understand what we've created. What do you mean? Zextor demanded. For generations we kept them contained, she explained. We limited their growth, denied their requests, forced them to rely on us. When they walked away, we broke all our chains on them at once. The chamber grew quiet. They're not just building ships, Iria continued. They're building a future. where they don't need any of us, and I fear they're succeeding, near New Eden. The Joint Council Vorlac fleet took position. 200 ships formed a blockade. Around the human colony, commanders exchanged confident messages. This show of force would surely bring humans back to the council table. Then a single ship appeared. It was human-made, but unlike any design they had seen before. Sleek and silver, it moved with impossible grace. Attention council and Vorlac vessels. A calm voice transmitted on all frequencies. This is Captain Olivia Barnes of Earthship Defiance. This is a courtesy. Please observe and report. Before anyone could respond, the human ship fired a pulse of blue energy. It spread across the blockade like a wave. Ship after ship lost power. Weapons, engines, and life support shut down. Only emergency systems remained functional. Panic spread through the fleet, but no further attack came. After 30 minutes, systems restarted one by one. By then the human ship had vanished. On Central as the council watched recordings of the demonstration. In stunned silence, they had sent 200 ships. The humans had sent one. This cannot stand. Zetor rage. They humiliated us. They showed restraint. Iria countered. They could have destroyed that fleet. Instead they sent a message. For 3 days the council debated. Fear and anger drove them toward a dangerous decision. Despite Iliad's passionate opposition, they voted to approve a preemptive strike against Earth itself. A massive armada gathered near the border of human space, the greatest fleet in Council history, prepared to jump to the Sol system. Victory seemed certain due to overwhelming numbers. Then on every command screen on every ship the same message appeared. We know your intentions. We know your capabilities. We know your weaknesses. Turn back. Below the message was personal information about each ship's captain, including images of their homes and families. One by one, ships began to break formation and retreat. Invasion force collapsed without firing a shot. On Earth, Jane Foster watched the fleet disperse on her tactical display. They're learning, she said, quietly but not fast enough. 2 years after humans left the council, the galaxy looked very different. Planets that once prospered now struggled. The great trading networks fell apart. Species that had been friends for centuries now argued over dwindling resources. Dr. Alan Weber walked through his laboratory complex built inside an asteroid near Jupiter, his greatest creation. The Harmony Network protected all human worlds. It was a web of satellites that could detect, track, and, if needed, destroy any ship entering human space without permission. Dr. Ambassador Phillips is here to see you, his assistant said. Greg Phillips had aged since that day he walked out of the council chambers, now called from retirement. He carried new weight on his shoulders. Alan, we need to talk about Illyria's message, Greg said, without greeting the council. Reformist, Ellen replied, leading Greg to his office. She's contacted Earth secretly. Her faction wants asylum. They say Zexter is planning something desperate. Alan frowned. Can we trust her? She was the only one who voted to help us, remember? Greg sat heavily in a chair. I think we should listen. On Centralis, High Chancellor Zur met with his most loyal commanders in a room swept for listening devices. The council structure is failing, he hissed. See, 7 species have already opened separate talks with humans. We must act now or lose everything. What do you propose? Asked an old general. We have weapons even the council doesn't know about. Zexer said quietly, planet killers hidden for centuries. We will target Earth directly. That would mean billions of deaths. Another commander said it would mean our survival. Zexer replied, the humans must be stopped before they replace us. The weapons move secretly from their hiding places, traveling through unused jump points toward the Sol system. Zexer was certain of success. The weapons were ancient technology, undetectable by modern sensors. He was wrong. Harmony Network identified the weapons the moment they entered human space. Dr. Weber's system didn't just detect them. It took control of them. Secretary Martinez watched from Earth Command as the weapons were neutralized one by one. Should we destroy them? A general asked. Kyle shook his head. No, send them back. But first, let's return the favor. Across Council space, precision strikes hit military installations with surgical accuracy. No lives were lost, but in less than an hour the Council's military capability was reduced to pre-space levels. At the same time, evidence of Zexer's many crimes against Council members appeared on every communication channel on every Council world. Records of bribes, assassinations, and secret deals, all exposed. The response was immediate. Riots broke out on Centrales. Council members who had supported Zextor now called for his removal. Species that had been controlled through threats suddenly found their oppressors powerless. Council structure stable for over 2,000 years collapsed in a single day. Councilor Iria and her followers arrived at Earth aboard a small fleet of ships. Seeking dialogue, Ambassador Phillips met them at the orbital station. Your timing is perfect, he told you with a smile. The old order just fell. We watched it happen, she replied. Many worlds are in chaos. Some species are turning on each other, reviving ancient feuds. We've been preparing for this. Greg said, Earth is ready to offer humanitarian aid to suffering worlds. But there will be conditions. Meanwhile, Admiral Foster received reports of conflicts breaking out in former Council space without the Council's authority. Centuries of tension erupted into violence. Deploy peacekeeping forces to these coordinates, she ordered. Minimal force, maximum presence. We're not conquerors, we are mediators. As human ships move to prevent genocide and protect civilian populations, word spread through the galaxy. The humans weren't just powerful, they were merciful. On Earth, Secretary Martinez addressed the United Earth government. Today marks the end of the Galactic Council era, he said solemnly. What comes next depends on us. We can rule through fear as they did, or we can build something better. I propose we choose the harder path, the path of partnership among equals. The vote was unanimous. Project Phoenix entered its final phase, rebuilding a broken galaxy. 3 years after humans left the Council, a new order began to take shape. Secretary Kyle Martinez called it the open hand policy, where the Council ruled through control. Humans offered partnership. Ambassador Greg Phillips traveled constantly, moving from world to world. Some species welcomed him warmly, others remained suspicious. Today he stood before the leaders of the Krell, a species known for their pride. Humans ask for nothing in return, the Krell leader asked, mandibles clicking in disbelief. We ask only that you treat Others as equals, Greg replied. Our aid comes with no hidden demands. The council always wanted something. The Krell said, territory, resources. Technology, Greg smiled. We're not the council on a ravaged world called Proxar. Dr. Nickel Warren led a team of human doctors. A plague had devastated the population. After council medical ships stopped coming, the fever is breaking, she told the Proxar mother, whose child lay in a makeshift hospital. She'll recover fully, the mother's 4 eyes blinked with tears. The council said the medicine was too expensive for our kind, that we weren't important enough. Nicole touched the mother's arm gently. Every life matters. To us, every single one. In Earth's orbital headquarters, Admiral Jane Foster met with Arya, the former council member now represented the reformed Nari Confederation. 7 former council species have signed the Concordat. Jane said, we hope the Nari will join us. What makes this Concordat different from the council? Arya asked. No central authority, no votes on who deserves protection. Everyone contributes what they can and receives what they need. Arya studied the human Admiral, and Earth leads this new alliance. Earth coordinates. Jane corrected. We don't lead. That was the council's mistake. They put some species above others on a space station orbiting New Eden. Secretary Martinez prepared for a historic summit. 15 former council species had agreed to meet. Some came eagerly, others came out of desperation. The stage is set and aid told him representatives are arriving. Now Kyle nodded. Remember, equal seating, no high chairs, no special platforms, everyone at the same level. The summit began with tension. Species that had once dominated others now sat as equals with those they had controlled. Species that had suffered under council rule watched humans with cautious hope. Kyle stepped to the center of the circular chamber. 3 years ago, Earth walked away from a system that failed us all. He began, not just humans but every species that wasn't among the privileged few. Today, we propose something new, he outlined. The Galactic conquered at no central authority, mutual defense that couldn't be voted away, economic independence, alongside cooperative trade, cultural autonomy with shared ethical standards. This is not a new council, Kyle emphasized. This is a true partnership. Discussion lasted for days. Some species, particularly former council powers, rejected the new approach. Others, especially those who had suffered, embraced it. The Vorlak will never accept this, warned a delegate from a border world. As if summoned by the words, news arrived of a major Vorlak attack on a former council colony. The summit watched in horror as footage showed civilian centers being bombed. This is their answer to our peace, a delegate said bitterly. Kyle met Jane's eyes across the room. She nodded once. Help is already on the way, Kyle announced. Human ships will defend that colony. Why? Asked a former council power. They're not human worlds. Because that's what partners do, Kyle replied simply. The summit watched as human ships engaged the Vorlak fleet. The battle was swift and decisive. Not a single civilian area took additional damage after human arrival. When the summit reconvened, 7 species immediately signed a concordat. Earth was the 8th signature. This is just the beginning, Kyle told them. Together, we will build something that has never existed in this galaxy, a civilization based on cooperation rather than domination. As delegates departed, Arya approached Kyle. "You could have ruled the galaxy through force," she said. Quietly, "Why didn't you?" "Because that's not who we are," Kyle answered. "Humans don't want subjects, we want friends." 5 years after humanity left the Council, the galaxy was healing. The Conqueror now included 15 species. Trade flowed. Again, peace spread across former Council space, but at the edges of the galaxy something stirred. Captain Olivia Barnes stood on the bridge of the exploration vessel Horizon. Her mission was to map systems beyond former Council territory. "Captain, we're picking up strange readings from the fourth planet," her science officer reported. "What kind of readings?" Olivia asked. "Artificial structures, but they're old. Very old." The Horizon entered orbit around a dead world. Scans showed cities buried under dust and time. Olivia led the first team down to the surface. What they found changed everything. "These aren't just ruins," she told Dr. Allen Weber over a secure channel. "This was an advanced civilization, maybe more advanced than we are now." Allen studied the data from his lab near Jupiter. The technology signatures don't match anything in our records. Not human, not Council, not any known species. "There's more," Olivia said. "We found records. This civilization was destroyed deliberately back on Earth." Intelligence Director Catherine Lee connected disturbing pieces of information. Ships disappearing at the galaxy's edge, strange signals from deep space, and now Olivia's discovery. She called an emergency meeting with Secretary Martinez and Admiral Foster. "Something isn't right," she told them. The Council had star charts for the entire galaxy, but they never explored beyond these boundaries. She pointed to a map. "It's as if they were deliberately staying contained." "Contained by what?" Kyle asked. Catherine looked grim. "That's what worries me." On the reformed Council world of Centralis, Valeria met with former High Chancellor Zex Tour. Once the most powerful being in the galaxy, he now sat in a cell awaiting trial for his crimes. "Why did you hate humans so much?" she asked him. His mandibles clicked slowly. "It wasn't hate, it was fear. Fear of humans, not of what they were," he said. "Of what they might become, of what they might attract." Arya leaned forward. "What do you mean?" Zex Tor's compound eyes stared at her. "The Council wasn't just a government, it was a prison. Beautiful, comfortable prison to keep us all safe." "Safe from what?" "The harvesters," he whispered. "They come when civilizations grow too bright, too advanced. They've been culling galaxies for millions of years." On the horizon, Olivia's team decoded more ancient records. The truth was worse than they imagined. The civilization wasn't just destroyed, she reported to Earth. They were harvested, their knowledge, their technology, even their biology was taken. There are records of it happening to other species too, dozens of them. Dr. Weber connected with her from his lab. "Captain, I've analyzed the defensive systems we found in those ruins. They're activating. What? How? They're millions of years old." "I don't know, but energy signatures are spiking across the planet. It's as if they detected something." Olivia ordered immediate evacuation. As her ship pulled away from the planet, her crew detected massive energy surges from deep space. "Multiple contacts," her tactical officer shouted. "Nothing like we've ever seen before." The Horizon barely escaped as strange vessels entered the system. They were unlike any ships humans had seen. Organic and mechanical merged together in impossible ways on Earth. In emergency session of the Concordat, gathered as news arrived from the horizon, Admiral Foster shared Captain Barnes' report and the ancient records. The Galactic Council knew, Jane said. To the stunned representatives, they knew about these harvesters. That's why they enforced technological stagnation. That's why they feared human innovation. They kept everyone weak to avoid detection. Kyle realized they sacrificed progress for survival. Iria confirmed it. The council founders knew they built a system designed to keep us all contained and controlled, to keep us from becoming too advanced, too noticeable. So we have a choice, Jane said. Return to enforce stagnation or fight. Kyle finished, and I think we all know which path humans will choose. He stepped to the center of the chamber. We didn't come this far to hide. We prepare. We stand together and we fight, one by one. The Concordat members rose to their feet in silent agreement. The greatest challenge in galactic history lay ahead. But this time, no species would face it alone. 6 years after humans left the Council, the galaxy prepared for war. The harvesters had been spotted in multiple systems near the galactic rim. They moved slowly but with terrible purpose. Their advanced ships looked like massive jellyfish made of metal and flesh. Admiral Jane Foster stood before the combined fleet commanders on New Eden. The room held officers from 18 different species, including former enemies. The harvesters will reach populated systems within 6 months, she told them. They target advanced worlds. First, we must be ready. General Frank Rodriguez displayed tactical plans on the main screen. They fight like nothing we've seen before. They don't fear death because they're partially organic, partially machine, but they do have weaknesses. A Vorlac commander spoke up. His species had been among the last to join the Concordat after their home world was attacked. How do we fight an enemy that has destroyed civilizations for millions of years together? Jane replied simply, the harvesters have always attacked isolated species. They've never faced a united galaxy. In his laboratory, Dr. Alan Weber worked with scientists from 12 species. They studied the ancient records and the limited data from encounters with harvester scouts. The key is their connection, Alan explained to Secretary Martinez during a briefing. They operate with a hive mind. Each ship is part of a greater whole. If we can disrupt that connection, can we build something that works against them? Kyle asked. Alilan nodded. We already have a prototype. We call it the Severance device. On Centralis, Iria met again with Z-Tor. The former chancellor had provided crucial information about harvester weaknesses in exchange for reduced punishment. The council founders knew more than they shared. Sex-Tor admitted they had ancient weapons hidden throughout the galaxy, but they feared using them would attract more harvesters. Where are these weapons? Iria demanded. I'll tell you, Sex-Tor said, but you must promise something. When this is over, if we survive, build something better than what we had. The first major battle came sooner than expected. A harvester vanguard fleet entered the galaxy through a spatial anomaly near the abandoned Krell colony world. Jane expected them to target former Council core worlds. She positioned the combined fleet accordingly. The battle lasted 3 days and spread across 5 star systems. Human tactics formed the backbone of the defense former Council species provided. Specialized capabilities that humans lacked. The Vorlek, once enemies, now fought alongside humans with savage determination. The combined fleet emerged victorious, but at heavy cost. 7 major ships were destroyed. Thousands of crew members were lost. In the aftermath, scientists examined captured harvester technology. What they found killed them. They're not just invaders, Dr. Weber reported to the conquered leadership. They literally consume civilizations. They take our knowledge, our technology, our very biology. They've been farming galaxies like crops for millions of years. More disturbing was the discovery that the harvesters operated on a hive mind principle. They're all connected to a central intelligence, Allen explained. We found coordinates in their navigation systems. We know where the control center is. General Rodriguez proposed a daring plan. We take the fight to them. A strike force through the spatial anomaly, targeting their central node. With the severance device, the plan was dangerous. It would require sending ships outside the galaxy into harvester territory. Many would not return. Who would lead such a mission? Asked Anilari. Commander, I will, Jane said without hesitation. That night Jane looked at the stars from the window of her quarter. So much had changed in 6 years. Humans had gone from the Council's lowest members to the galaxy's last hope. Her communication panel chimed. It was Kyle, the Concordat. Voted, he told her. The counteroffensive is approved. Every species has volunteered ships and crews. Jane nodded. Tell them we leave in 3 days. Are you sure about leading this yourself? Kyle asked. It's likely a one-way trip. Jane smiled slightly. 6 years ago, they wouldn't even help defend one human colony. Now they're ready to follow us into hell itself. That's worth any risk. 3 days later, the largest combined fleet in Galactic history assembled near the spatial anomaly. At its center was Jane's flagship carrying Dr. Weber and the severance device. All ships report ready, her communications officer said. Jane took a deep breath. Then let's go. Introduce ourselves to the harvesters. 7 years after humans walked away from the Council, the final battle began. The combined fleet entered harvester territory through the spatial anomaly. What they found was beyond imagination. The harvester home realm wasn't a planet or a star system. It was a vast structure that existed partly in normal space, partly in dimensions humans couldn't perceive. It pulsed with stolen life and technology from thousands of consumed civilizations. Admiral Jane Foster stood on the bridge of her flagship. The main screen showed hundreds of harvester ships moving to intercept them. All ships execute Battle Plan Alpha, she ordered. Remember your training. Remember why we fight. Dr. Alan Weber worked frantically in the science bay, making final adjustments to the severance device. The weapon was designed to cut the connection between the harvesters and their central mind. Without that link, they would be disorganized, vulnerable. How close do we need to get? Jane asked over the comm. Within 10,000 km of the central node, Alan replied. I've marked the coordinates on your tactical display. The battle erupted across a vast front. Human strategies formed the backbone of the attack. The Vorlak provided brutal offensive power. The Neri contributed their advanced shield technology. Even the Krello, once proud council members, now fought with desperate courage, but the harvesters were powerful. They had consumed the knowledge and technology of countless civilizations. Their counter measures were devastating. We've lost. The Defiant and the Starseeker reported. Jane's tactical officer, her voice shook slightly. 30% of our forward units are disabled or destroyed. Jane nodded. Grimly press forward, all ships. Concentrate fire on Sector 7. We need a path to that central node on Earth. Secretary Kyle Martinez watched the battle through delayed transmissions. Beside him, Iria coordinated the secondary defense fleet, protecting civilian worlds. They're taking heavy losses, she said quietly. Kyle nodded. But they're advancing. Look, they've broken through the outer defenses. Jane's flagship pushed toward the central node, taking hit after hit. Alarms blared throughout the ship as systems failed. Engineering reported the main drive was nearly gone. We'll make it, Jane assured her crew. Just a little further. A massive blast rocked the ship. The bridge went dark for several seconds before emergency power kicked in. Direct hit to our main reactor, her first officer reported. We're losing containment. Estimated time to critical failure, 12 minutes. Jane made a quick decision. Evacuate all non-essential personnel. Get them to the escape pods. What about the severance device? Her first officer asked. Dr. Weber and I will handle it, Jane replied. That's an order. Get everyone else off this ship. In the science bay. Alan looked up as Jane entered. I heard about the reactor. We need to leave. Not yet, Jane said. We're still 5,000 km from the target zone. The ship will hold together long enough, but the escape pods will be gone by then. Jane finished. Someone has to see this through. Alan, understanding, dawned in his eyes. He nodded slowly. I'll stay. 2. The device needs final calibration. At the deployment point, Jane opened a channel to Earth. Kyle, we're going to make it to the target, but we won't be coming back. In the command center on Earth, Kyle gripped the edge of his desk. Jane, it's okay, she said. This was always a possibility. Her voice was calm. Remember what I told the council 7 years ago. We will protect our own. Well, now our own includes all of you. The damaged flagship pushed forward, shedding debris as it went. Harvester ships converged on it, sensing its importance. Allied vessels moved to intercept, buying Jane precious time. With their own lives, we're in position, Alan reported as the ship shuddered. Around them, device ready. Deploy, Jane ordered. The severance device activated, sending waves of energy directly into the harvester's central node. The effect was immediate and dramatic throughout the battle zone. Harvester ships began to move erratically. Some simply stopped, others fired on their own kind. It's working, Alan said with wonder. The connection is breaking. Jane smiled as she opened a final channel to the fleet. This is Admiral Foster. The mission is successful. Finish them. Flagship's reactor reached critical mass. In its final moment, Jane looked at the stars one last time. Worth it, she whispered as light engulfed her. 1 year later, representatives from 36 species gathered in a new chamber on New Eden. Unlike the hierarchical council chamber, it was circular with all seats at equal height. Kyle Martinez and Arya unveiled a simple plaque in memory of those who walked away to stand there. Ground, they taught us that true strength comes not from dominance but from unity and diversity. The galaxy had changed forever, the old council species finally understood humans weren't just another member to be controlled. They were the catalyst the galaxy needed to break cycles of stagnation and fear. And somewhere in the vast cosmos, the surviving harvesters added a new warning to their records: approach with extreme caution.